Look down the tracks. On the left, 5 lives. Not just anyone. 5 people on the brink of rewriting the future. They carry the kind of ideas that could end disease, hunger, maybe even war. The blueprints for a better world are in their heads. On the right, 1 man, alone, a stranger it seems. Red wristband, quiet. The train doesn't care about dreams or potential. It only follows steel. And right now, it's racing toward the 5. One pull of the lever swaps 5 futures for 1. Clean math, 5 over 1. But take a second look at the man on the right, the trimmed mustache, the armband, the weight of his stare. This isn't a random stranger. It's the shadow behind history's worst chapters. You stop unimaginable future suffering with a single choice. But to do that, you have to choose to kill. So what do you do? If you pulled the lever, you're thinking like a utilitarian. You judge the action by its outcome, maximize lives saved, minimize suffering. The greater good outweighs the single life lost. And yet, that flicker of hesitation, that's omission bias creeping in. The instinct that feels doing harm is worse than allowing harm, even if the body count says otherwise. Your hands feel heavier than your silence ever would. Then there's the twist. The moment the stranger became a villain, the numbers didn't change, but your emotions did. That's the framing effect at work. Same tracks, same math, different story. What just happened in your mind wasn't a simple moral calculation. It was a collision between multiple layers of your psychology: instinct, identity, conditioning, fear of guilt, fear of judgment, and your own internal hierarchy of values. When you first looked at the tracks, your brain likely defaulted to arithmetic. 5 lives versus 1. That's fast cognition, what psychologists call intuitive processing. It's quick, automatic, efficient. But the moment identity entered the equation, the brain shifted from pure quantity to narrative evaluation. Humans do not evaluate morality in a vacuum. We evaluate stories. We assign weight based on perceived threat, innocence, contribution, and symbolism. That shift reveals something profound. Your moral decisions are not fixed principles stored neatly in your head. They are dynamic constructions built in real time. At the core of this dilemma is agency. The human mind treats harm caused by action differently than harm caused by inaction. This is not weakness, it is structural. When you act, your brain encodes the event as self-generated. The prefrontal cortex engages in deliberate choice, and the emotional centers, especially those associated with guilt and empathy, activate more intensely. When you refrain from acting, even if the outcome is equally tragic, the brain experiences less ownership over the result. This is omission bias, but it runs deeper than a bias. It is tied to how humans evolved to survive in groups. Being directly responsible for harm threatened social belonging. Allowing harm to happen often felt less traceable. So your nervous system reacts more strongly to the thought of "I did this" than "this happened." Then there is identity protection. Every person carries an internal model of who they believe they are: compassionate, rational, strong, principled, protective. A dilemma like this attacks that model. If you pull the lever, you may save more lives, but you risk violating a personal rule against directly harming someone. If you refuse, you may preserve that rule, but you risk being the person who allowed greater suffering. The discomfort you feel is cognitive dissonance, the brain's attempt to reconcile conflicting self-images. After a choice is made, the mind automatically begins rewriting the story to defend your identity. It amplifies the reasons that justify your decision and suppresses those that threaten it. This is not deception. It is psychological stabilization. Your reaction also exposes your dominant moral framework. If you focused primarily on maximizing survival, you lean toward utilitarian reasoning, outcome-driven morality. If you focused on refusing to commit an act of killing regardless of outcome, you lean toward deontological reasoning, rule-based morality. If you asked what kind of person you would become after the decision, you are operating through virtue ethics, identity-based morality. Most people are not purely one of these. They fluctuate depending on context. That fluctuation is not inconsistency, it is the human mind negotiating between competing values under pressure. Personality traits influence this negotiation. Individuals high in empathy often experience stronger emotional resistance to direct harm, even when the logic supports it. Individuals high in conscientiousness may focus on duty and long-term outcomes. Those high in openness may question the framing and search for hidden assumptions. People high in neuroticism may feel intensified anticipatory guilt or anxiety over future regret. Even traits like agreeableness can shape whether you prioritize immediate compassion over abstract survival. The dilemma is not just testing your morality, it is exposing your temperament. Conscience itself is not a single voice. It is an internal dialogue shaped by upbringing, culture, past experiences, authority figures, trauma, education, and social reinforcement. When you hesitate, that hesitation is layered. Part of you calculates outcomes. Part of you fears guilt. Part of you fears being judged. Part of you wants to maintain internal purity. The conflict you feel is the friction between these layers. Deep psychology suggests that moral dilemmas activate not just ethical reasoning, but attachment patterns. For some, harming a visible individual triggers early caregiving instincts. For others, protecting the group activates tribal survival instincts. Both are deeply human. The identity reveal in the scenario demonstrates something even more unsettling. Your morality is susceptible to reframing. The numbers did not change, only the narrative did, yet your emotional response likely shifted. That means your moral certainty is not purely logical, it is contextual. The mind assigns value based on story, symbolism, and perceived future impact. Recognizing this doesn't make you weak, it makes you aware. Awareness is the beginning of psychological insight. What this dilemma truly measures is not whether you are good or bad. It measures how you balance responsibility, consequence, and self-concept under pressure. It reveals whether you fear guilt more than regret, whether you prioritize collective survival over individual sanctity, whether your identity is anchored in action or restraint. It exposes how comfortable you are with carrying moral weight. Some people would rather live with regret than with the knowledge they directly caused harm. Others would rather bear the burden of action than the burden of preventable loss. Neither position is simple. Both reveal something intimate about how you are wired. The deepest psychological truth here is this: when you are given power, the outcome fuses with your identity. That is why the dilemma lingers. It forces you to confront the kind of responsibility you can tolerate. It forces you to examine the gap between who you think you are and who you might become when forced to decide. If this unsettled you, that discomfort is data. It is a signal that your moral architecture has depth. Exploring that architecture is not about finding the right answer. It is about understanding your own patterns, your biases, your instincts, your fears, your thresholds. If you want to explore more dilemmas like this and map your moral tendencies in a structured way, use the Dilemmo app. It's designed to push you into complex scenarios and help you see the psychological patterns behind your decisions. Sometimes the most important discovery isn't which lever you pull, it's learning why you pull it.